Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. I'm Brian Jones, and I'm a trainer in heartfulness meditation. And it's good to be with you again. This is my little corner of the social media universe. so I'm going to switch over to my chat window and see who's joining in. So please do, as you join in, feel free to put your name and where you're from. Love to know who's out there tuning in. So let's see, we've got Anil. Okay, he says good morning. Good morning, Anil. Anil, hope you're doing well. Also, I want to say that, and I'll repeat this probably a few times, is at any time today, if you'd like to ask questions, I'm welcoming the questions, and that's been working out pretty well, I think. So please feel free to, if you've got something specific you want to bring up or talk about, you can do that. You can do that today. All right, Shilpa, welcome. Michael from Washington, UK. Fantastic. I don't know, maybe I've said this before, but, a couple of years ago, back in 2020, my wife and I were on our way to India. And it's such a long trip, so we planned to take a few days stopover in London. And I got to say, we just had the most amazing time in London. It was just great. And we very rarely take any vacation. I mean, we're usually doing things with the organization, the heartfulness and meditation, but we took a few to 3 days, I think, and we just had such a wonderful time in London. So next time we want to come back, and next time we want to explore the countryside and get to know a little bit more of the country. And the people were so wonderful, and it was just great. So, all right, let's see who else. Mahima, welcome. So we've got about 23 people now. Usually we get about 40 some for the live session. So I just want to repeat that if you have any questions today, feel free to put those in the chat, and I will definitely take those up. So today's topic is called Live as a Perpetual Student. Live as a perpetual student. This is kind of the story of my life, because I still am a student. In fact, I write on Quora quite often. I've been writing on Quora, which is an international question and answer site. I've been writing there for about 8 years now. And I tell people on there, look, I'm not a teacher. I'm not anyone's guru or anything like that. I'm just an experience sharer. I'm still learning. I learn every single day. And there's something new that I learn. And there's so many things that I'm interested in. I mean, there's the spiritual side of life, and there's so much to learn there. It's just never ending. There's so many things we can learn about our spiritual journey. And a lot of that we have from our own inner experience, which is really important. Our inner experience is keenly important in our journey of self-discovery, okay, because this program is even called Discover a New You. But in the external world, there's a lot of things to learn too. That's also endless. And we all have different types of jobs. We go to school and study different things. And basically it comes down to, what have we taken an interest in? And this is something that Babaji said that to me was really key in understanding our spiritual journey. He said, the only requirement on the spiritual path is taking an interest. Can you believe that? It's only just taking interest. Because when we take interest in something, no matter what it is, then we start to explore it. And then it might get more interesting or resonate with us. And then we start to dive deeper in that. And if it's an external thing, we may go to school and take up a certain profession. And we may spend, many, many years studying and learning that profession. Then we go into our, life doing that, where we gain a lot of practical experience. Spiritual journey is kind of like that too. We take an interest in meditation. We take an interest in, let me back up. I'm not so sure we take an interest in meditation. I think what we're taking interest in is how we feel from the meditation. And that's what we're really taking an interest in. We're not taking an interest in meditation. Meditation is the tool we use to further advance ourselves. And it's the feeling that we get, it's the things that come to us from within. Those are the things that really fuel our interest in our spiritual journey, which goes on and on. And as you've heard me talk about, especially the past few weeks, I've talked about how there are times in our spiritual practice when we don't feel anything. And that's when doubt sets in and we think nothing's happening and we lose interest. And when we lose interest, well, then, you know, everything else falls off too. We don't practice, we don't do anything. So I think Babaji was really wise in what he said, that the key to anything, a success in anything, is just taking an interest in it. So I think that's why I came up with this topic: live as a perpetual student, and not really with the idea that we're a teacher. But let me just say this. Here's what has been my experience, is that pretty much on any given day in our life, we are likely a student of someone, and we're likely a teacher to someone, right? Especially if you have children at home. Well, clearly you are a teacher to them, but also, as you well know, they are definitely a teacher to you, and you definitely going to learn something from those little ones, because they will, challenge our very perception of life with amazing questions and fresh insights, which is so wonderful. I mean, can you imagine? And, I just want to say, in this regards to being a perpetual student, I want to share something with all of you. And I don't know if I've shared this before or not, but, in my practice for these many decades in heartfulness, I've always tried to remain connected with the young people. So I've always participated in being like a camp counselor. When we've had our youth programs down in Atlanta, for example, our ashram down there, we had these youth programs, and I attended 2 or 3 of those as the camp counselor, and we would do programs. And I just enjoy hanging out with the youth and the young people. I find it, to me, to be very illuminating and very invigorating. And to this very day, I take sittings from people who are younger than me. I take sittings from people who are maybe really young and new to this practice. I take sittings from the preceptors who don't have a whole lot of life experience or experience of study or understanding of all the books and everything. That's who I generally take sittings from most of the time. And I find that very refreshing. And I feel in those sittings that there is such a unconditional purity and direct connection I feel in those sittings. And some of those sittings have been so amazing and so profound. And what I've learned from this is that the young people coming in these days, I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think they have as much baggage as older folks, who had to really do a lot of digging and diving deep to get the pearls. I think that the young people of today give me a lot of hope, and I learn from them. I learn a lot from them, and that's why I like to hang out with the younger people, is because I find that they're just a wealth of fresh inspiration, And when we think of our life as perpetual learners, we have to think about learning and about knowledge and about understanding in a very different kind of way, because we don't want to just learn something and become stuck in that knowledge, you know, because that happens a lot of times. In fact, it happens most of the time, especially if someone specializes in a particular field. What happens is that they will only tend to look for solutions within that set of knowledge, within that particular learning. Okay. But if you want to be a perpetual learner, you have to open your eyes to a broad vision of things, because the reality is, just by looking around and observing in daily life, we can come up with all sorts of solutions to things that are completely unrelated. I mean, if we take Newton, for example, sitting under the apple tree and the apple fell on his head, and, thus he had a revelation about gravity. Okay. So he didn't come up with gravity, this revelation of gravity, by, studying more about, the sciences and all that. No, an apple fell out of the tree and hit him in the head. Okay, so this is kind of what I'm talking about. And I find in my own life, because I've had many careers, and I've, taken up many different things, many skills. And I find that one thing fuels the other. I've been a musician, I've been an artist. I don't say been, I am a musician, I am an artist. Arts have taken me into digital, graphic design. I am a writer now. I do corporate interior design. I redesign buildings and do custom artwork, and I create spaces. And over the course of my life, I've done many other things. And what I find is that one interest reveals something to me that may solve a problem or give me an inspiration in something that's totally different. Okay. Like, let's take painting, for example. Okay. Painting and music. If I want to combine those together, there's certain principles that unfold in each of these that apply across the board. For example, in painting, they talk about negative space. Okay, how important negative space is. And negative space is the area in the painting where there's not anything going on. It's just a blank area, or maybe some vague movement. And when you are studying art, you realize the importance of the negative space, because the negative space, informs and brings your attention to, that which you've created in the positive space, if we want to call it that. Okay, for example, in fact, if I have right behind me an example of this. Okay, so you see back here is one of the paintings I've done, and that painting is called The Offering. And as you can see, there's not a lot of things happening in the background of that. It's just a male figure seated in a humble pose, holding a gigantic calla lily. And the meaning of this painting starts to become more apparent, because it's just such a bold object surrounded by negative space. And the meaning is that, when the heart is like the flower is like our heart. When we offer that offering to the divine, then the flower is bowing down over the person who's making the offering, bestowing its blessings on them. So when we approach the divine in a prayerful state, in a submissive state, in a humble state, that's when we are so open that, we receive back the divine blessings. So, if I had in this painting, if I had filled up that background with all kinds of patterns and all kinds of things, it wouldn't be as significant. Okay. So this is another learning from being a perpetual student in life. And how this applies in music is that you have the same thing, the silence, okay, the space between the notes is often used to tremendous impact. Okay. Because when you hear a song and, okay, it's just And look, there's a lot of different types of music, okay? But when you hear a song that's just, the same sort of level all the way through, the same sort of frequency, the same sort of everything from beginning to end, you're okay, you're into it, you like it, if you like to dance, it's great for dance music. But then there's a lot of other types of music where, you know, you can build interest, you can build drama, you can build the intensity by using just very little sound, very, very little, almost nothing. And yet, because it's the only sound there is, it contains so much of power to it. It just draws you in. And you have this sense of anticipation that this little thing, it could be just a ding, ding, or whatever it could be. It's pulling you in. Something else is coming. Okay. Now, when I started to understand these principles as I went on through my career, first as a musician and then as an artist, when I started speaking in public, which is something I was incredibly shy of, I want to tell you that. I was terrified of speaking in public. I mean, literally. My palms would be sweating. I would not be able to think straight. I would go into complete panic mode. And yet I knew that I had to overcome that fear. And so I forced myself to give talks whenever I could, whenever I had the opportunity. And very often this would happen at one of our spiritual gatherings. For example, many times when Chariji would come to the United States and we'd have a gathering and people would get up and give talks, I would always make sure I gave a talk. And they were probably horrible talks, but I was doing it for myself. So this is part of being, another aspect of being a perpetual student, a perpetual learner, okay, is we need to put ourselves in a mode where sometimes we have to overcome certain hurdles in order for us to open up, to facilitate our being open and to learning new things. So when it came to public speaking, as I got into it and I practiced more and more, I got better at it, and I just kept practicing, kept doing it more and more and more. And eventually I got very comfortable doing it. Being a musician helped. I used to play out I had bands and I played out in public a lot. So that was one thing that helped bring me out of my shyness. Then I started giving talks at libraries and I gave talks at a lot of universities and colleges, and I've given talks, a lot of corporate talks on different topics, not just meditation, but talks on entrepreneurship and many different topics. And so every chance I can, I will take advantage of that and give a talk. And here's what I've learned from that. Whenever you're in a situation where you're in front of a group of people and you're making a presentation, okay, inevitably there will come a time when suddenly you may forget your lines or forget your train of thought. What happens? Well, first of all, we start to go into this inner panic. It's like time suddenly slows down and it feels like, the silence before you catch your train of thought again is like so big, and that, oh, this is an embarrassing moment and and this is forever. And oh boy, I'm really, then we start to spiral down and we lose where we're going. So what I learned from art and from music was that the pause, it's important. See, you're waiting for me to say the next line. So I learned that, when you're speaking in public and you may lose your train of thought, you don't panic, because that pause you turn around and use for your own advantage. We've paused. take your time, regroup, collect your thoughts, and everybody will be on the edge of their seat. They'll be just can't wait to hear what you're going to say next. And the next thing will come, and then you'll be okay again. You'll recover from that. But this idea of pausing, this idea of the space between the notes, this idea of the negative space on the canvas, this is what I mean by being a perpetual learner. We learn through observing everything in life. We learn from observing externally. We learn from being a witness or an observer to our own inner condition. And when it's an inner type of learning, sometimes that is, most of the time, I think that's beyond words. It's more of a subtlety. It's a spiritual state. And sometimes we try and, we'll write in our journal and we'll try and give some language to it, but we know that we can't always describe, how we feel in meditation. So this feeling is another way in which we learn. It's at a subtler level. So there's, many ways that we become lifelong learners and students. And remaining a student during one's life, to me, is what keeps us young. It certainly keeps me young. Learning from young people keeps me young. Not getting stuck in my ways is very important. I don't mind if people want to, remind me of that from time to time. That's good too. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to share that. I didn't have a real lengthy program plan for today, but this really applies to our spiritual journey, I think, in a huge way, because if we can remain open to receive, open to learn, if we can remain open and not stick to our patterns, if we can avoid sticking to our opinions, avoid being too judgmental, then we stay young, our mind stays open, and we continue to learn and grow in life, in our outer sphere and our inner sphere. Okay. Now, I'm open to take a few questions if anyone has any questions today, and you may or may not, but I'll give you a moment to put a question in the box if you'd like. And let's see who else has joined. Mahima, welcome. Ruchi, Vihana, Sashi, Jasbir, Sahaja, Valo, welcome. Lakshmi, Swati. Hi, Swati. Asusi, and Saraswati. Saraswati. Wash hands. Okay, yes, all right. I don't know what that means, but okay, maybe I'll do that. Are my hands dirty? So if there's no questions for today, then we're going to meditate together and just go within and experience what comes to us with an open heart and an open mind. And let's just prepare to receive. Okay, so let's meditate together. Please sit comfortably. Let's start by taking a slow, deep breath in. And let it go. Feel your body is relaxing. Let your shoulders relax and drop down. Let your arms and hands relax. Very gently bring your attention to the area of your heart and rest on your heart. Now let's rest on the source of light, the source of love and wisdom that's already present in the heart. And feel the source is attracting you inwards. Let's stay with that thought. And that's all. Let's take a moment and observe how we're feeling. And feel this deep inner peace is expanding within and around you. And now let's have the thought that everyone in the world is also enjoying this deep, peaceful feeling with us. Okay. Whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay, so thanks for being here today. And I look forward to being with all of you again next week. And until then, as I like to say, stay with the heart. Love to all. See you.